Hello, ladies and
Hello.
gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live here on YouTube. I am here with Ashley Fratello. I love your last name.
Thank you. I think
And
it confuses people here more than anything else. They're like, "But I need your last name." I'm like, "No, this is my last name."
and I always remember when I was talking to the lady about your shipping, and she was like, Fratello? Are you not me? She
Mm.
tell Diego, are you her fratello? Like, no.
That's so funny.
Okay, guys. So join us over on YouTube while we talk about Ashley's journey to Milan. Okay, I'm signing off of here. Join us over on that other platform. Okay, so Ashley, I obviously know all about you. I love you,
Mhm.
just in case you didn't know.
Likewise.
But tell all the people in the world who you are, what you do. Yeah, and I think we'll get
Sure.
started there.
Sure. So I'm a physician by training, and my husband's also a physician by training. However, we have found a very soft spot for Italy, and we wanted to figure out how to make this happen. So throughout this journey, we've also become multi-business owners,
Mm.
and it's how we financed the entire move. So we own an aesthetics clinic in Chicago, um, several locations of a national franchise for home restoration, which may not be the sexiest industry, but it's a really great, stable industry that is recession proof. And we also own a medical consulting business as well as a business consulting business.
Wow. That is a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
Ashley.
Yes.
You're a very, very busy business woman. How did you get started in, I guess, your first business, I guess is the question
Yeah.
to go for? Hmm.
So the first one, we actually started from the ground up. So we built a med spa, and the very first one was actually out of Nebraska. The reason we started it was because I was thinking, we came from LA. I trained in Los Angeles, and we were in a small town, and I really needed some laser treatments that would help with some brown spots I had from pregnancy. But they didn't offer it in the town. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we just buy the machine and start a business? And then it just sort of snowballed, that I realized I loved building the business. I loved the process of meeting new people. And given the work we did in medicine, it was, there's a lot more at stake. It was a lot heavier. So this was just a really feel good type of side project that was, a personal passion of mine. And, it's just skyrocketed. We love the business. We love our team. And, then we expanded into a Chicago location. And again, that team is amazing, like best people in the world. And at the end of the day, if you have a hard day in medicine, because sometimes medicine's not it's not glamorous. It's genuinely hard. You have to give bad news. You're seeing people sometimes on the worst day, but then I get to talk to my team in Chicago, and they've had the best day, and they've helped people feel amazing about themselves, and it's just incredibly rewarding. So it fills both cups at the same time. So I get to do medicine, then I also get to do the feel good kind of medicine.
That's awesome. So did you say that you're a cardiologist? Did you explain that part to people
So,
already?
yeah, I'm a cardiac surgeon. My husband's also a cardiac surgeon. So what we do is generally, we're dealing with patients who are having usually the worst day, or they have
Mhm.
a congenital issue that they've known for a long time, but their interventions are big interventions, and they're scary things to consider, and you have these deep conversations about life plans, goals, how
Mm.
you want to live, what quality of life do you want, you know what medications do you want to take forever, which medications will you not take forever, depending on what kind of operation you have. So they're just very serious,
Mm.
very heavy conversations. We go very in depth with our patients, and it takes a lot of time and effort to really, do the best you can for them. So then when we go to the aesthetic side,
Mm.
not that we're not putting time in, it's more everything feels good because somebody is there. They want to feel and look their best. And
Mm.
we can do that very easily. It is just around the corner, So we know that when they walk out of there, they're going to feel incredible. With
Mm.
surgery, it's like, well, I know you're not going to feel good for 6 to 8 weeks, and you're not going to like me for 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, for 6 to 8 weeks, you'll be like, I'm glad I'm alive, right?
Yes. Yes.
That is so
Exactly.
interesting. And I think people forget that part about, let's call it the aesthetics, the beauty industry, because, there's so much about it's superficial and all that kind of stuff. But I think there is something, I love the fact that you acknowledge that you are basically bringing joy and like happiness into someone's life thanks to the fact that you're helping them feel better about themselves. So,
Oh, absolutely. And, a big thing that I focus on, the changes of pregnancy. I have 4 kids, and I think that was the hardest thing, seeing the all the changes that happen. You start to feel like you've lost your original self. So I like to focus on getting people back to their own original self and feeling better about themselves, not trying to change who they are or what they look like, but to
mm,
make them feel like they are them again.
mhm. Okay.
So
And so, how long ago did you start this business, this first one?
the very first one was we purchased the space for it in 2020. We opened in 2021. Second
Wow.
location, we opened in 2022. So
Wow. Did you
then,
have a background in business?
no, we're just
I
winging
love
it.
that. You're like, I just want to do this. I was like, I
Yeah.
need this. I think other people do too.
Yeah.
And I
You
love,
learn, this is like surgery where you can read all the books you want about it, but you're not going to really
mhm,
know it until you're doing it. And
mhm,
having somebody mentor you through the process, which we had, um, it really helps because you're learning as you do it versus reading a book. You're not going to solidify the knowledge until you experience it. So in medicine, we say, see one, do one, teach one. That's
mm,
exactly what we're doing. So we saw a friend of ours do it, and we're like, okay, well, we're going to do it. Our friend helped us and sort of coached us through, what it's like owning a business. And now we are teaching people how to do it.
mm. And so the friend who was coaching you, were they in the Medi Spa, the aesthetic space as well, or was it a different type of
No,
business?
it was a different industry. It was like men's health and hormone replacement. So not totally different, but definitely a different patient demographic. But
Mm-hmm.
same principle, same idea. So, when you're learning how to open a business, start a business, there are a lot of things that go into it. You need to think about insurance. You need to think about liability insurance. You need to think about how you're going to pay for your team, how much capital you need. Are you going to buy your space? Are you going to lease
Mm-hmm.
your space? What aesthetic do you want? Are you going to have your own website done, at home? Are you going to do it? Are you going to pay a company to do it? Who's going to do your marketing? There's a lot that goes into it that you need to think about. And it's not that hard once you understand the process. And if you have someone walking you through it,
Mm-hmm.
you just say, okay, well, this is the next step. So you come up with a plan, you make your plan, and you just follow it step by step.
Mm,
And when you run into snags, which everybody does, and that's not a point to panic, you just take a deep breath and you work out whatever it is you need to work out, and then you just keep going. And our friend was extremely helpful in sort of, just giving us the confidence that, okay, just keep going. Next step, next step, next step. And then, we got the doors open. We did pretty well, pretty quickly. I think we were just
mhm,
very lucky. It says that we had built a really great team. So
mhm,
that team drew in, patients for the clinic.
mhm,
But once you have the foundation of how to build a business, what needs to be in place, then
mhm,
you have the formula and you have that tool set, and you can apply that to most industries because it's the same tool set.
mm. That's so fascinating because, doing Italy is obviously a business, but it's not a brick and mortar business.
Hmm.
So there is such a different um, tool set and set of skills that you need to make a brick and mortar business come to life than like, I was like, oh my gosh, renting a space, like just the sound of that. There's your little one.
Yeah, I
Um,
apologize.
it's okay. I only have one. And I closed my door and I told my husband, I was like, you need to keep him in there.
Yeah. My husband had the same instructions, but missed the memo.
We know how that goes. We know how that
Mhm.
goes. So, when you were starting this business, did you already know that you wanted to move to Italy? Was that even a thought in your mind at the point?
That business, no. I think I just enjoyed the new challenge. But then I would say, so 2019 was our first family trip to Italy. We spent 3.5 weeks driving around Sicily. Then we ended up in Puglia. We really
Wow.
fell in love. But then we had our wedding. So we were married, but we celebrated our wedding because of COVID and everything in Sicily in 2021. And I think that was the point where we're like, we want to be here permanently. This is
Really?
an
Wow.
amazing place for kids. I mean, who else can bring a bunch of kids to a restaurant and feel totally welcome there? That doesn't happen in the US. I have yet to see that in the US.
Yeah.
You get dirty looks. Here, it's like, they're bringing toys, and do they want a pillow to lay on if they fell asleep at the table? They'll make pillows out of napkins for you. Like it's just a completely different vibe.
Mm. I remember a few years ago, we went back to the States with Lorenzo, and it must have been like the first day we were there or the second day. I think it was the first day. We were having pizza with like some Italian friends that now live in the States. And we get into the restaurant, and I was like, and he's like, where's the rest of your party? And I was like, they're on their way, they're not here yet. And I was like, but my son's hungry. Can he eat? And he was looking at me like, where's the rest of your party? And I was like, they're not here yet, but my son is hungry. Can he eat? And they were like, you need to wait. And I was like so confused because in Italy, you come into a restaurant with a child and they're like rolling out the red carpet. They're like, Mom, what can
Yes.
we do for you? Does the child need anything? We can get you their food while you get settled in. And
Yes.
I was
They'll
like, what's
bring you a
on?
glass of prosecco and the pasta for the kids so that you can enjoy your cocktail while you're ordering and the kids are eating and they're quiet. It's amazing.
Right. It's like it's a whole and at first I didn't understand. I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
I was
we just
like,
don't take our kids out to dinner in the States. It
it's
was so stressful.
I can only imagine because then I only had one, like and then you multiply it, they're even more
Hmm.
annoyed, right? I don't know if
Yep.
I ever told you this story, and then we'll get back to you. And we would go on vacation in the mountains, and they
Hmm.
wrote us in advance and was like, "Do you want to?" Because Lorenzo was weaning, and
Hmm.
we emailed them the doctor's prescribed like menu, and they would
Hmm.
make his baby food for us.
No way. That is so cool. That
They
is so
would
cool.
make his baby food.
Wow. I love it here.
I do too.
It's like
You
every day there's something new that you learn. You're like, can it be any better here? Is this a fairy tale?
Okay. So you opened up how many locations of the Medi Spa do you have now?
So we just have the Chicago location right now because we moved out of Nebraska and we repurposed that building to get capital for the next business that we bought.
Oh, wow. And so you want to tell everyone what was the next business and you bought and how did you end up getting into that field?
Yeah. So we had already decided we wanted to move to Italy and we needed a way to support ourselves during the school year because our plan was to still do medicine, but on a more, it's called locums. basis. So you're practicing, but it's not a permanent position where you need to physically be in a specific location all year. So when we were looking for a business, we wanted something that was stable, Amazon proof, recession proof, that you kind of learn that the sexy businesses aren't always the best to buy because they're a little more volatile and their failure rate is higher. So this was a tried and true business that was already in existence, already cash flowing, and we were very, very excited about this particular opportunity. But to be fair, full disclosure, we had spent about a year and a half looking, and we had done the due diligence on 2 other businesses that had fallen through, because when you're doing your due diligence, there are certain things you need to look for. And depending on how you need to structure the transfer of the business, which will be determined by many, many factors. But for us, one of the factors was you need a certain licensure through Medicare, because we were looking at a home health agency, for example.
All right.
So if you're buying a business as a asset purchase or a stock purchase, that changes your exposure once you close on the business. So an asset sale, you're just buying their assets, the intellectual property, the equipment, the contracts to the employees, the client list, patient list, if it's a medical practice, that sort of thing. If it's a stock sale, you're buying the business, which means you get all the licenses, which is great. Those just come to you. But you're also buying the entire business's history of liability when it comes to taxes and anything else that you don't just, that you don't think of, or that you didn't discover during due diligence. So if you're doing a stock purchase, you have to be much more thorough. So that we were looking at doing a stock purchase, and I had identified some issues with the taxes, so we kind of backed away from that. So after a year and a half of looking, we found this opportunity in the restoration industry, and we're able to do an asset purchase. And the cool thing is, with buying a business, the US is very good about this, because there's the SBA, so Small Business Association, where you can get an SBA loan, and all you need is 10% down.
Wow.
You can get creative. So we put our own 10% down because we had sold off pieces of the med spa and then re-rented the space. But there are different ways to get the 10%. You can get an investor, you can get you can raise capital, that sort of thing, if you want to put $0 in and you give somebody a portion of your equity in exchange for that 10% deposit. Anyway, we put 10% down, bought the business through the SBA process, which is, it's great that it exists because it lets people who maybe never had a business before, who are really just trying to get started in something, it lets you do that. The process can be scary and it takes a while, and we ended up needing a lot of hand holding through it. But once you've got it, it's awesome. It is meant for people to add to the economy, to to continue to create jobs, to support the employees who are in existence, and then grow to have more employees to continue to support a local community. So I bought the business using the SBA loan, and we're extremely happy with it.
That is so fascinating. Like, you're opening up this whole new world for me, Ashley.
Yes.
Like, I was like, there's so many questions. Okay, so what year was this? Okay, so you did Sicily and you did Puglia, I believe you said. You said, I love Italy. And then at what point in time did you say that you wanted to move there? Like,
after our wedding. So we were fellows, we had $0. We had just lots of debt. When we were married in 2016. And then we had a wedding planned in 2020 after we had gotten our first, grown-up jobs. And we were able to pay to have a celebration. But then we had COVID. So the date got canceled. We pushed it to 2021. We were there for a little over 3 weeks in 2021. Amazing experience. And we're like, this is the lifestyle we want every day. The quality time we had with our kids was amazing. The food was amazing. Like, we felt better. We felt like we had more energy. the people were kind, and just everyday life was easy. It was just easy and it was enjoyable. And, I don't want to romanticize it too much because there are hard parts of moving. You need to be realistic about it. But just every day you're walking around, you're like, wow, like this is reality now. It's pretty cool. So that was in 2021. And then that's when we had opened, or we were building out the second location for the med spa. Then we opened in 2022. I had our third child then. So
Wow.
things got slowed down with all the babies.
You were doing so much.
But, so we got the med spa open, and then, we had just had our third son, and then we started looking again, but a little more casually. There are some sites you can go on, like Biz Buy Sell, or you can look directly on brokers' websites, and you just start sort of, it's a process because you have to look for, the business industry that, you feel like you could apply your talents towards, or something that's easy enough to learn on the fly. You have to meet with the brokers, you have to talk with the sellers, and then you start doing some due diligence. You have to learn how to write a letter of intent to even get the offer, accepted. And then that's when you start working on the actual contract. There's a lot of nuances that took some time to learn. So we spent, a good 2 years going through that learning process of how do you write that letter? How do you make the decision on what to offer on? How do you format the deal? How do you check to see if, based on the information you have, is this going to cash flow enough for us to live on?
And so you were making all of these decisions with the intent of moving abroad, or were you making these decisions with the intent of owning another business?
It was with the intent of ultimately moving abroad, because we wanted something specifically for us, a business that did not require us to physically be tied to a geographic location in the US for most of the year.
Okay.
So we decided we were okay spending sometime in the States, but we wanted the bulk of our year to be spent abroad. We want our children to learn Italian. My husband's Swiss. He wants them to learn German, and we can do that here in Italy. Both languages are spoken, both languages are taught depending on the school you go to. So that was the goal. We want our school year in Italy.
Okay. So at what point in time, like how much time passed between you finding a business you wanted to purchase and then like actually purchasing the business?
So I'd been looking, like I said, for a year and a half. Once I identified the current business that we own now, I identified that in January of 2025. We closed in July of 2025. And that was with a significant number of delays unrelated to us or the SBA loan. It was more, having to clarify documentation and get taxes from the business that got messed up at some point. So we had sort of regroup and those documents. So
I don't know if it's on my end or if it's on your end, but you broke up just a little bit there. Can you all still hear me and see me? We had a little bit of a like thunderstorm here. So if it's not working, but I see another comment come through, so I guess you all can still hear and see me. So I'm assuming, there we go. Ashley was having issue because of that. You, but not your guest. Yeah, I figured as much. Maybe the storm rolled through her side of town. Yay. Hey, Ashley. Yeah. Did you get the thunderstorm at your part of town now? Is that what happened?
They're still a little bit broken up. One sec. A storm just rolled through.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that has to do with it.
Yeah, it probably does. In fact, I was sitting here and it rolled through, I guess, my side. We're both in Milan, right? So it started down by me, and I was like, I hope the connection doesn't go down. And I was like, I hope. That's probably what's going on. So let's see, I have a business, which is a travel business, but I was wondering if just in case I'm not able to do it from there, what are the best jobs to do? Maybe we'll hold another call about that. Ferret, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Ashley, you're still a little frozen. Let's see. And she's gone again. Sorry about that, guys. This is live, right? And like I said, we had a little bit of a storm going through, and I guess it's interrupting her connection. If you have any other questions, do feel free to put them in the chat box. For your question, Ferret, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think maybe we'll do like it can be a topic for another discussion, okay? Is it best to have a remote business when living abroad? I mean, really just kind of depends. Like if you want to run a business in Italy, you're more than welcome to, but there's a whole different set of challenges associated with that. In this case, as you know, Ashley was talking about, they decided to have a US based business or businesses that were basically already cash flowing. So they already had clients and all that good stuff. And you moved to a different location.
Yes. Right next to the Wi-Fi
now. Somebody's asking where in Sicily or maybe Puglia did you settle? I'll let you answer that question.
So we went all over Sicily. We started
The internet is not loving you, Ashley. Well, we figure out what's going on with Ashley again. Ashley actually lives in Milan now. And so when she and I met, I want to say, was it a year ago? Maybe more than that. They still weren't sure where they wanted to be. They did talk to me about a few different cities back then. And I obviously gave my input on the pros and cons of the various cities. I think one of the reasons why they ultimately decided to come to Milan is also because they have a Swiss international school here. So, like Ashley said, her husband is from Switzerland and he wanted them to learn German. She wanted them to. It's not letting it. She was doing such a good job. And she obviously wanted them to learn Italy. They're in Italy, Italian. And so I think that is one of the reasons why they ultimately landed on Milan. But when she gets back on, I'll let her answer that question in more detail. Can you have a US based business while living full time in Italy on a visa? You definitely can. It's definitely something that you can do. how that would work would depend a lot on the type of visa that you're doing. And of course, talking to a tax consultant to figuring out that out. I think you're like working again, Ashley.
Yes, yay, finally.
Yay, there we go. Okay,
Yeah.
somebody asked where in Sicily you ended up, but I was telling them that you obviously ended up in Milan. Do you want to say
Yes.
why you ended up in Milan?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, my husband's Swiss, and we really wanted our kids to speak both Italian and German. So finding a school that would teach both was really important.
Mhm.
Um, the Swiss school, so there are a couple of locations. There's one in Catania, there's one in Roma, Bergamo, and Milan.
Mhm.
However, in Catania, it's not through high school, it's just through middle school. And they wanted to hold the kids back 1 year, and we
Mhm.
were not super excited about that. But
Mhm.
Milan had what do they call it, Sprachatelier, where they do 15 hours of extra German every week to catch up, so that by next year they'll be taking all of their tests in German.
Wow.
So
How are they adjusting to that? Because they're not just adjusting to Italian, it's Italian and German.
yeah, they're amazing. Like they love it. They love school. Okay, so coming from the US, they absolutely love school lunch here. It is the first thing they want to tell us about every single day. Like, it's the food's here so good. I mean, it's better than your food, mom. And they're just really, really excited.
I love that for them. Not so much for you. I mean, I'm glad they love it, but I was like, it takes a lot of courage and like not not I would be emotional if Lorenzo told me that the school lunch was better than my home cooking.
Yeah, yeah. But it's hard to compete. How do you compete with, like the standards Italians have for their meals? It's just so
Mhm.
much higher. And, they're coming from the US where you get a bagel with a, quarter pound block of cream cheese on it, and that's breakfast. So it's a totally different situation. But otherwise, they're doing really well. It's interesting. Our daughter is picking up Italian a little bit faster, and our son is picking up German a little bit faster. So they just sort of, I don't know if they like picked a language to favor, but
Mhm.
they're getting there. They're, taking all their tests in German now.
That's so
Their Italian
awesome.
tests are great, and they're explaining things to me as I'm trying to learn.
I love that. I love that
Hmm.
for all of you. And I know how old your kids are, but you can tell the internet their age
Yeah.
range.
So our oldest is 8, and then we have 7, 3, and 2.
Awesome. You're a superwoman. I think we'll have to have like a whole different like talk about like time management and how you have kids and be cardio surgeons and have two businesses.
It keeps me busy.
Yes, definitely. Let's see. We had a question here about, and then I guess we'll hop back into whatever we were talking about before,
Yeah.
which is how much we realistically need to invest in a cash flowing business. Hmm.
It's a great question. That depends on what you need to live on. So, what I would say is when you're looking at a business, you want to value it properly. So, if you go to bizbuysell.com, just know that what the price that's listed is sometimes completely unrealistic.
Hmm.
They will ask $1 million for something that generates $45,000 of income. So your goal is either three, 3.5, maybe four if it's a really good business, 4 times what the net profit is. So EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and so on. So
Hmm.
um, you can either go by that, or you can go like 1.1 times total revenue,
Hmm.
and that's what you should pay. And then what you really need to do is sit down and say, what do I need to budget, right? So you have housing here, insurance here, which is a joke. Really not bad at all. Once you're a resident, you can get, Italian insurance, but to get your residency, we had to buy our own insurance. If you want to move things here, then that was an expense that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. That was about $16,000 to move, like furniture, clothes, kids' toys, that sort of thing. And then you have to think, what do you need to get by every day? We spend probably 40% less on groceries here. So much, much better in that regard. School is 10% of what we used to pay when we had our kids in a private school in the States. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the business, it's something where, if you gave me an actual business to look at, I could say, this is what I would predict it would cash flow. Your first year taking over, anticipate at least a 15% drop in what you're going to take home, because there's always some growing pains with the transition. But then you should be able to ramp up within the next year.
I love that. And so obviously if people want to reach out to you and get your assistance on like purchasing a business, like I'm sitting here and my eyes are like my eyes are like this, and I'm singing in my head, a whole new world, like what's the best way for them to reach you?
Just email me. You can email me at inquiries@medallioncardiovascular.com. That's our cardiac consulting business, but I've just been running everything through that email. And I'll get back to you usually pretty quickly, as long as we're not, slammed with something else. I'll answer within 24 hours.
Okay, awesome. Should I put the links to your various businesses in the chat box?
You can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then when I send out the recording, we'll do that. Let's see. There are a few more questions in the chat, but is there anything else you want to add? I don't like how that came out. I may add it one by one. Is there any other things you want to talk to before we go into the other questions that people have in the chat box?
No, I think the main thing is just understanding that it's a process. You can't just buy a business in a day. You need to educate yourself on what you need the steps you need to take to make sure you're making the right decision, you're choosing the right business, you're not getting swindled by somebody. But once you understand and you can look at financials, you're in great shape. And the only thing I would say is having a mentor in that process was enormously helpful. The same way you mentored us through getting to Italy, because it's a really scary process when you haven't done it before.
Yay.
So you made the whole process like so seamless and easy. We literally, I don't know if your followers know, we didn't even see the apartment. We just trusted you and we moved in, You're like, this is the one. I was like, okay, it's the one.
It's a whole lot of level of trust. I appreciate that.
But it's very similar when you have a business consultant. For us, it was one of our friends who started walking us through this back in 2020, 2021. You realize, like, once you understand the principles and the fundamentals, then you're like, yeah, I've got this. I can do this on repeat now. But having that mentorship was enormously helpful.
Awesome. Let's see. You said something a few seconds ago, and I wanted to ask you a question about it, but I forgot what it is now. I don't remember what it is. So maybe we'll go back to some of the questions in the chat box. Do you see them?
I do not. Hold on. Let me.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, how do the taxes work? Do you only pay U.S. taxes given the businesses are U.S. based? So I actually, it's interesting, and that's I would say an entirely different chat. There's an accountant that is U.S. based, based in Spain, U.S. citizen, who is helping us for our taxes this year. We are not paying Italian tax until we get to January. So we
Mhm.
moved in September, so it is like the next calendar year where it counts. Then yeah, there's a way to get not out of it, but there's a credit essentially, so you're not double taxed.
Mhm.
And because they are US based companies with US based employees and their brick and mortar locations, it's a pretty, rock solid, this is a United States company kind of thing.
Mhm.
If I was doing some sort of like social media business where, I'm getting paid to post, that's going to be a problem. But if you have a brick and mortar business that you've purchased and all of your employees are US based, then you'll be under US taxes.
Mhm. Bravo. That was a good answer, Ashley. Hmm.
Mhm.
Let's see. Someone else asked a question about if your husband is Swiss, part of the EU, which it technically isn't, but um,
Schengen.
yeah, it's Schengen area. Why do you need a visa? I thought having EU nationality gave you freedom of movement. Hmm.
So, we've been a little bit lazy about getting our kids Swiss citizenship set up. So once that they're set up, they're fine. They can
Mhm.
move about freely, and then they just have to go to the Comune and alert that they're there, essentially. For me, it's still complicated. He's Swiss, but they're not just going to give me citizenship. The Swiss are really strict about letting anybody in. So they're like, I don't know about you yet. So it's called a family reunification visa. So because my husband and my kids are here, I can be here and I don't have to jump through as many hoops to
Mhm.
get that long stay visa. So, yay.
Very good. Because sometimes I'll do these interviews and people will say stuff, and I'll be like, well, that's not exactly right. But I don't want to say anything. But that was very correct, Ashley.
I learned it from you. So you're the one who got me through all of this.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Any other questions? Anything else you want to add, Ashley, about like what your thought process has been or what you like the most? I mean, let's focus a little bit on the positives. Like, since let's do that. What surprised you the most since you moved here?
I think just the ease of the transition. So, I don't know, maybe it was just me, but when you're looking to move and you're getting ready, you start looking for other influencers or people who've experienced this, and you hear the horror stories, and you're like, oh, this is going to be so terrible. And
Mhm.
really, it wasn't. It was super easy.
Hmm.
Um, I was just shocked. Like the day to day is really easy. I have no complaints. We walk our kids to school twice a day. If you looked at our health data, it's
Mhm.
insane. Like our resting heart rates are probably 10 to 15 like beats per minute lower than they were in the US, which is a great sign.
Mm.
And our it's just a very easy transition. We haven't done the whole sitting in any government building for hours on end. Every time we've had an appointment, we were done within an hour, and they're really nice to the kids, and the kids got
I think the
snacks. And
help.
yeah, you're like, well, we don't want all four of them screaming in here, so we need to get them out of here.
I have one
So,
of like my friends who lives here that she says whenever she has to do something in like the Italian government office, she always brings her child.
yes.
I love that. Somebody says, I bet you don't have a spare bedroom. Ashley has a very, very large, beautiful home, actually.
Thank you that you found.
Especially for Italian standards. Let's see. We have pros and cons for business infrastructure compared to the US and Italy. Did you even contemplate opening up a business here?
Yeah, I actually went through quite a bit of a process. I was looking at an aesthetic, longevity-based business here in Italy.
Mhm. I think I
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, but it was a little bit frustrating for me because we needed to pay a European physician to supervise the clinic. I was like, I can supervise it, you know. So I
Mhm.
got frustrated with that. But looking at the cash flow, it was just not going to be enough for us to live on with the level of investment that they wanted. I think they wanted 600,000 euros
Mhm.
of, you know, upfront investment, and then that doesn't cash flow for a year or two. And we just really didn't want to take that risk. We are a little bit more risk averse in that regard. So we wanted a business that was actually already cash flowing. I would say the US is better in that we have a lot of incentives that you can take advantage of.
Mhm.
So, like SBA, how often can I haven't really fully purchased an existing business in Europe, but you know, 10% down is really nice, especially if you know, there are ways you can swing it. So if you don't have the 10%, then you can go to the seller and say, hey, can you seller finance it? And that's great for the seller because not only are they, you know, getting the business off their plate, but they're not having to deal with the capital gains tax they're going to get from getting a big lump sum. So
Mhm.
when you're paying, you give them their, you know, the down payment, but then when you're paying them monthly, that's their income, and they can deduct more off of that. So if they have real estate investments or that sort of thing, or if they're retirement age, it's
Mhm.
just an easier transition for them, and they don't have to deal with this giant, you know, 30% chunk being taken out of their you know, lump sum that they're supposed to get if you go through a traditional bank loan.
Mhm.
And like I said earlier, you can raise capital with investors if you know the right people, you know, depending on the business, it's not that hard to do. You know, there are
Mhm.
certain business categories that are really popular with investors, like laundromats and restoration businesses. Yeah, there's a lot of private equity and restoration businesses, home health agencies,
Mhm.
hospice. A lot of that has private equity has been, you know, sort of creeping into plumbing, also
Mhm.
big. HVAC, also big. You know, they're not sexy businesses, but if you look at where private equity is investing, you should probably think that you should be investing there too, because they know something, right?
Right. I have, why do my questions come and go out of my brain right now? It's just not happening, so we're just not
Mhm.
gonna try. We had another question come into the chat box, which was,
Ooh.
what has been the biggest challenge of running a business remotely while abroad? Is it time difference? Is it something else?
Yes, that is definitely not always the easiest. So uh, the restoration business we have two territories in Los Angeles and then one in Tucson, Arizona.
Mhm.
So our morning meetings happen at, depending on whether it's you know, daylight savings or not, either 3:30 or 4:30 our time here in the afternoon, which isn't bad. But then if something happens throughout the general business day, then I'm waking up at midnight to deal with it.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I can tell you as a physician, I am waking up way less with the business issues than I was with the phone calls overnight. So for me, it's not a big deal whatsoever.
Wow. And do you keep your phone on all the time for like, or do you have like a separate business phone for like emergencies? Like, how does that work?
I don't understand work-life balance. So my phone is just always on.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it's really not bad. It's really, really not bad. I can tell you when, you know, as a surgeon, we were getting called nightly, multiple times a night. I think I've had to wake up once in the last month to deal with something. So
Oh
it's
my,
really not bad.
I like vaguely remember now, like me sending you a message and you were like, La 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 la. I think we were like sending you images and pictures of like one of the homes we were showing you, and you were like, "Okay, great. I'll like write you in like 2 hours because I'm going into surgery," or you were coming out of surgery or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why all of my good questions are not staying with me today. Well, we may have to do like a follow-up call or something like that.
We can.
Anything else from the chat box or anything else you want to add, Ashley? Oh,
I'm
you
looking.
want to add in the chat box the contact
Oh, yes.
again? And I'll go through.
Hold on. It's wanting me to log in. Oh no.
Well, what was it like inquiry at
Yeah.
Medallion
Inquiries at medallioncardiovascular.com.
with an S at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Inquiries. I think that's how you spell that. Look at me knowing how to spell. At Medallion Vascular. Is that right?
I'm gonna check.
Let's see. You can let me know. If not, I guess they can go on Medallion Vascular. Medallioncardiovascular.com.
Yes.
How do you
How did
find
we find the account? Okay. I don't even remember how I found him. If you want his contact information, I can just email me and I can send it to you. How did you quickly gain expertise in restoration services when buying that business? So I think part of the process is understanding where your strengths are and where they're not. So because I was new to restoration, the first thing I did before we even closed was identify a director of operations and basically had him in the wings waiting for us to close. So I had messaged him months beforehand. When I had figured out like the top candidates that I was looking for, I actually kind of stalked him on LinkedIn a little bit. He's probably like, this crazy lady keeps messaging me. But he's been great. I convinced him to join us, and he's got, decades of experience in the industry. He grew one of our competitors to like a $16 million business. So he knows how to scale, he knows how to grow. And I think it's more not how, but who. Who are you putting in place? So he was a key player. And for restoration in particular, there's definitely a learning curve, but you learn it. Like if you just sit in on your own morning meetings and then you talk to, your upper management, you learn it really fast. It's not rocket science. It's really just, you need to be a good person. You need to want to do the best for your clients. And then the rest essentially follows. It's really a great business model because you're, kind of like medicine, you're helping people on what could be one of the worst days of their life. Their home flooded, their business flooded. There's been a fire. Like in LA, we're dealing with the LA fires and all of that remediation. So if you always make your decisions with doing the absolute best for your clients, you'll just pick up on the nuances.
That's a great
And then
answer.
also make sure you have a good team in place and you're good.
Yay. I remembered one of my questions. Yay.
Yes. What is it?
Considering the current economic climate, I'm still a little sleepy here. Which lagged. Okay.
I can
Economic
imagine.
climate in the United States. You mentioned several times getting a recession-proof business, right? What are your thoughts on thinking that through or finding that type of business? Is there anything you would do differently compared to just looking for a business in general?
Yeah, so you want something that's a necessity that can't be farmed out to AI or Amazon. So, for
Mhm.
example, the aesthetic industry overall, that's a luxury. That is not a necessity. You will not die if you don't get your melasma taken care of. You may feel crummy about yourself, but that's not something you need to live. It's not a core need. So when there is a recession, people, that's the first thing that gets cut. So if someone's looking at their budget and there's inflation and they're having to pick, where am I going to spend my money? They're going to cut the things that are luxuries first. So that's why the med spa industry was not necessarily the smartest thing to get into if I was looking for something sustainable that we could live off of long term, unless you've got like a behemoth of a business that's been around for 20 years and it'll weather it no problem. But if you're a new business or a younger business, you definitely want something recession proof. And then in terms of thinking, what is recession proof? It's the things that you need regardless of what's going on. Okay, so if your house floods, somebody has to get the water out, and it may not be something that you can do on your own, because a pipe bursting can flood your home to your knee level in 45 minutes, depending on how big that pipe is. So you need professional remediation. If you have mold, you need professional remediation. If you have smoke damage, or especially with the LA fires, for example, we've seen a lot of people who have they had smoke enter the home, or ash, but there's lead, there's arsenic, there's mercury, there's cyanide, there's lithium, there's all kinds of horrible like heavy metal and other toxins from the fire because of what burned around them. So everyone's electric vehicles burned, old homes full of lead, old homes full of sealants, filler, paint thinners, and the things in the garage like fertilizers, all of that burned, and that's all in the ash. It's not just like one isolated woods based fire. So you can't not remediate. You can't move into a house that's full of soot and char. If you do, you're exposing your whole family to these toxins. If you have young kids, you're exposing your kids to potentially neurologic deficits. So that's a thing that you have to do. So that's what I think of when recession proof. You have to do it.
Yeah. I'm like playing with the software and popping up some of the comments on the dashboard.
Like, where did that come from?
Let's see. Any other questions? Or anything else you want to add, Ashley, before I let you go?
No, I mean, if anybody needs me, email me, inquiries@medallioncardiovascular.com. Happy to help out whenever and however I can.
Yay. I learned so much. You're making me want to buy a US-based business too.
You can.
I know. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to go talk to my husband. I'm like, honey.
You can. You're a US citizen. It's easy to do.
Yes, I love it.
Get yourself a little loan.
Yes. And I mean, I think that's one of the great things about the US, especially right now, is that financing is still like a very good option, right?
Yeah.
And like, let's say if we had to talk about some of the pros and cons of Italy compared to the US, like financing a business is not one of Italy's pros. So I definitely love it. I'm like,
yeah.
I have to put my thinking cap on.
Well, the other cool thing to think about is, if you look at a business that's older, right? And it's owned by somebody who's wanting to retire, and you have value add, you can get it into this century, right? You're going to start email marketing. You're going to get the website up and get the SEO going and make sure your phone numbers match. It's just basic things that you can do to improve the efficiency and improve the reach of your business. That somebody who's, imagine they're 75, they want to get out of it, but it's the family business. You have a way to add value, but also you're more likely to get seller financing because they're like, hey, I just need to pay my bills at the end of the month. I don't want to pay a ton in taxes right now. There's just a ton of flexibility. So it depends on the business. But there's so many more options in the US, I would say, compared to Italy for purchasing a business.
Mm-hmm.
You can format things in many different ways. You don't have to go through the SBA. You can go through a traditional bank as well. The SBA is great if you don't want to put down a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you that option. But traditional bank loans also, not particularly difficult, definitely easier than the SBA as well. And if you have the seller contribute a certain portion of that financing, so it's called a seller note, that also brings down what you're going to have to ultimately take out in a loan. So
Okay. I
lots of
love it.
options.
We have one last question. It's just because I like it. It's an Italy question. We're going to put it up. Oh, look at me learning how to use this software.
Ooh.
I had my guy help me set it up. Can you
Awesome.
describe a day in the life and what you miss about the US, if
I don't
anything?
miss anything.
You see?
I don't miss anything. Normal school day for us. We wake up, we walk the kids to school. Our two older are in elementary school, so we drop them off. They'll have their breakfast at home. Then the preschool starts an hour later. So we will walk around the corner. We go to the same cafe every single day. They know us. They love our two younger sons. Every day, one of the owners gives them little chocolate eggs, and they'll compete about, who gets to give the boys the chocolate. And then we'll have breakfast there. I'll have, a coffee or two. And then we drop our 3-year-old off at preschool. And then we walk home with our 1-year-old, and I'll do a little bit of work for the business. I actually get to play with him and spend some bonding time. Pick our kids up around 3:30ish, and I'll hop on the meeting, just throw in some earbuds while we're walking back. We'll walk about 30 minutes in each direction, and we make dinner, and we just have like a nice family night. That's just a normal day. On a weekend, we have childcare for super cheap here.
Mhm.
And, my husband and I will go out like within, a 5-10 minute walk of our apartment. There's 1,000 restaurants, amazing bars, amazing cocktails. It's just an awesome experience. And then we're around the corner from the park. So then during the day, we'll take the kids to the park. They get nice and tired. They just want to hang out and go to sleep. By the time the sitter gets there, we go out to dinner, have a great night,
Yeah.
and, rinse and repeat for the next day.
Yay. And I didn't ask this question. If somebody wants doing Italy assistance in moving to Italy, what would you say?
I would say 1000%. I would not be here if it wasn't for all of your help. Like I
Yay.
said, I didn't even see the apartment we're in. You just picked it. I fully trusted you. And it's awesome. I mean, the space is exactly what we needed for our family. And the location cannot be beat. We are around the corner from the park. The kids are, they just love it. And the view is amazing. We have great light around, not underneath us, but literally around the corner is this beautiful grocery store where the entire center of the grocery store is just fresh produce, which is the total opposite of the US, where you walk into a grocery store and there's like a tiny little sad corner of produce, and everything else is just processed food that makes you cringe and, want to, steal some insulin. Um, so it's just like the perfect location. So
I love it.
you are
Yay.
1000% necessary. I would not recommend anyone try to move without your help, because there are so many points where I could have gotten hung up that it wouldn't have been possible. I would have screwed it up somewhere, because it's just such a new thing, a foreign thing. You need to have somebody with your experience and your connections to get it done. How many times did I have to call you to be like, how does this work? Who do I need to talk to? What do I say? Because my Italian's really not that good yet. Can you please
Yeah.
make sure I'm not saying something stupid? Just every single step of the way you've been there, and there's no way we do it without you.
I thank you, Ashley. And I love you. I always say I have like the best clients in the world. And one of the people that I think about when I say that is you. So,
Oh, thank you.
you know, you know. Okay, people, that's it. We're going to go to bed. We're going to probably get a cup of chamomile and then go to bed. You probably have a bit of work to do still, Ashley. You have that I have
Always.
work to do face on.
Always. Always. But it's not
Okay.
bad.
And thank you, everyone, for coming. The recording is obviously going to be up. And you know where to reach Ashley if you have any additional questions and you want support on buying a business in the United States and it being your, gateway to moving to Italy. Like she obviously knows what she's talking about. She's done it before, has several businesses, and she is here now with
Mhm.
her lovely, incredible kids. They're so cute. They're so cute. And I also just love it
Sometimes.
because you're doing all of this with the 4 kids. You know?
We're doing it for them, you know? It's a
Mm,
safe place to raise them. It was actually funny. We were in Tennessee and the mom groups were talking about, oh, well, we need armed guards at school. And I was like, I don't want to have this conversation anymore.
right,
So we did it for the kids.
right.
I have not had to think about that at all. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
School safety is huge.
Yes, I'm getting goosebumps, but like good goosebumps, like the
Yeah.
happy ones. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, thank you again, Ashley.
Thank
Mwah,
you.
ciao. Thank you everyone for coming. Grazie mille.
Grazie.